Hey guys, today we're going to talk about Travis Alexander. Hey guys, Victoria Paxton here. Thanks for stopping back by my YouTube channel. Today we're talking about Travis Alexander. When I did my research, of course, I had to talk a little bit about Jodi Arias, so this might be a long one. Sit back, buckle down, get a drink, relax, chill. Hope everybody survived 9/11, 20th anniversary. It's a tough day, you guys. Um, Like, share, subscribe. It's free, you know. All right, guys, here we go. Travis Victor Alexander was born on July 28, 1977 in Riverside, California. His dad was Gary David Alexander. His mom was Pamela Elizabeth Morgan Alexander. At the age of 11, Travis moved in with his paternal grandparents. After his father's death in July of 97, his 7 siblings were also taken in by their paternal grandmother. Alexander was a salesman and motivational speaker for prepaid legal services. So I guess he had like a really good job. Okay, Jodi Ann Arias was born on July 9th, 1980 in Salinas, California to William and Sandra Arias. Arias and Alexander met in September 2006 at a PPL conference in Las Vegas, Nevada. Arias converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, of which Alexander was a member, and was baptized by him on November 26th of 2006 in a ceremony in Southern California. That should be your first red flag. If she's like, oh, I want to become join the same church you are right away, like that's crazy. Okay. Sorry for the commentary. Alexander and Arias began dating in February of 2007. Arias moved to Mesa to live closer to Alexander. In April of 2008, she moved to Yreka, California, and lived there with her grandparents. Alexander and Arias dated intermittently for a year and a half, often in a long-distance relationship, taking turns traveling between their respective Arizona and California homes. Alexander's friends who knew Arias and observed them together tended to have a negative opinion of her. Hold on, y'all. Stating that the relationship was unusually tumultuous and that Arias' behavior was worrying. And just a wee little bit. In early 2008, Alexandra told acquaintances that Arias would join him for a work-related trip to Cancun, Mexico, scheduled for June 15th. In April, Alexander asked to change his travel companion to another female friend. On May 28th, the burglary occurred at the residence of Arias' grandparents, with whom Arias was living. Among the missing objects was a handgun chambered in a .25 caliber, which was never recovered. Light bulb. I wonder who stole that gun. On June 2nd, between 1 and 3 a.m., Arias called Alexander 4 times but did not appear to reach him, as the longest of the call durations was 17 seconds. After 3 a.m., Alexander called Arias twice, the first time for 18 minutes, the second time for 41 minutes. At 4:03 a.m., Arias called Alexander again, and the call lasted 2 minutes and 48 seconds. Neither these calls nor the transcripts were presented in the trial. At 5:39 a.m., Arias drove south to rent a car for a long trip to Utah, as evidenced by a gasoline purchase in Yreka. On June 2nd at 8:04 a.m., Arias rented a car in Redding, California, and indicated that she would return the car to that same location. Arias visited friends in Southern California on her way to Utah for a PPL work conference and to meet with Ryan Burns, a PPL coworker. By late evening of June 3rd, Arias had apparently set out for Salt Lake City. Alexander missed an important conference call on the evening of June 4th. The following day, Arias met Burns in the Salt Lake City suburb of West Jordan and attended business meetings for the conference. Burns later said that he noticed that Arias, who was formerly blonde, her hair was now dark brown, and that she had cuts all over her hands. On June 6th, she left Salt Lake City and drove west towards California. She called Alexander several times and left several voicemail messages for him. She also accessed his cell phone voicemail system. When Arias returned the car on June 7th, it had been driven about 2,800 miles. The rental clerk testified that the car was missing its floor mats and had red stains on its front and rear seats. However, it could not be verified that the car had floor mats when Arias had picked it up, and the red stains could not be analyzed as the car was cleaned before the police could examine it. On June 8th, having been unable to reach Alexander, a concerned group of friends went to his home. His roommates had not seen him for several days, but they believed that he was out of town and thus they didn't suspect that anything was amiss. After finding a key to Alexander's master bedroom, the group entered and found large pools of blood in the hallway to the master bedroom and Alexander's body in the shower. In the 911 call, the dispatcher asked if Alexander had been suicidal, you guys, or if anyone was angry enough to hurt him. Alexander's friends mentioned Arias by name as a possible suspect, stating that Alexander had told them she had been stalking him, accessing his Facebook account, and slashing his tires. While searching Alexander's home, police found his recently purchased digital camera damaged in the washing machine. Police were able to recover deleted images showing Arias and Alexander in sexually suggestive poses taken at approximately 1:40 p.m. on June the 4th. The final photograph of Alexander alive showing him in the shower was taken at 5:29 that day. Photos taken moments later shows an individual believed to be Alexander profusely bleeding on the bathroom floor. A bloody palm print was discovered along the wall in the bathroom hallway. It contained DNA from both Arias and Alexander. During Arias' first trial, she was found guilty on one count of first-degree premeditated murder. During the penalty phase, a mistrial was declared due to a hung jury. Arias was eventually sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole on April 13, 2015. Okay. So I was able to connect with Travis. He came through really happy and upbeat. He was a really nice looking guy. When I was able to connect with him, when I saw him, he looked like he did, in the pictures during the trial phase, I guess, when I was researching. I do remember this. Who didn't know about the Arias trial? I do remember this trial somewhat. I didn't follow it real closely, but I do remember it. Okay. So he talked about missing his family and his friends. He spoke about, how he has family on the other side, and he's grateful that he gets to visit with his family on the other side now. I told him who I was, what I wanted. He said towards the end of his life, he had become afraid of Arias. But in his mind, he felt like, he could appease her into everything being okay. I can't remember exactly how he said it, but he was like, she came over, we had sex. He's like, I was wrong for that. He said, I feel like I definitely used her. And, with my religion, my faith, that should have never happened. But I did. He said, I'm not perfect. I made a lot of mistakes. But he said that he felt like if he was giving her what she wanted, then she wouldn't do anything to him. And I said, well, that's kind of scary. And he said, yeah, it definitely was scary. So he said when she showed up like she did, it was nothing out of the ordinary because she did that all the time. She would just randomly pop up here and there, and she would pop up at places that he was, and he had slowly tried to start pulling back away from her. But he said, her behavior was getting scarier and scarier. Every day it was a little bit scarier, and he was a little bit more afraid each day. So when she showed up like she did, he's like, oh, okay, whatever. I'll get some free sex out of this. Okay. So I asked him to describe his last few hours, and I need to look over this because, okay. So they had sex a couple of times, and he said he needed to take a shower, and she said, oh, that's a good idea. Where's your camera? Let's take some pictures. And he said that was nothing out of the ordinary because, they'd taken pictures of each other before. So he said they were posing. He was posing, she was taking his pictures. She was posing, he was taking her picture. And then she told him to turn around. And apparently when he turned around, he just felt something hot in his chest and up near his throat. And he said he didn't even realize what was happening. He just felt like heat, but he didn't feel pain or anything, but he felt like he was having a hard time breathing. Yeah. He said at one point, he had tried to overpower her. And he thought he he said in his mind, he thought, okay, you're going to get through this. You're going to survive this. And he said, but then like all of a sudden, like the wind was just taken away from him. He couldn't breathe and he was struggling to breathe. And he said, I just kind of gave in at that point and just tried to relax, because he said at that point he was beginning to feel the pain and it was uncomfortable. Plus he couldn't breathe. So he said, I just figured if I slowed my breathing down and I tried to relax, you know. He said towards the end, he couldn't feel anything. Towards the very end, he didn't feel the pain. He didn't feel the heat. He just felt at peace. But he said he remembers he thinks it was just before he took his last breaths that he actually like turned his head and looked at Jodi, and he said, I don't know how to explain the look in her eyes. He said it was just scary. It was so scary. And he said, I don't know how else other to explain that. I asked him how he felt about the outcome of the trial, and he said, you know, I'm glad she can't hurt anybody. He said, I don't have any ill will towards her. You know, I did her wrong as well. He said, but I don't have any ill will towards her. But she has consequences that she has to face. And he said, I'm just glad she can't hurt anybody else. And he said, you know, he talked about how the relationship was bad from the jump. He said pretty quickly into the relationship, they loved hard and they hated hard. And he said, you know, sometimes their sex would get pretty intense, and it was more that they were fighting, you know, and then they would have like makeup sex, right? But he said it was like there was so much anger, you know, and he said it wasn't just on her part, it was my part as well. So yeah, he started, you know, trying to pull away at this point. And, you know, he talks about that he didn't like to think about that part of his life. He, you know, chose to think about the positive things rather than, you know, the end of his life when it became negative because of his relationship with Jodi. And he always said that. He said, whenever he referenced anything about it, he said, because of my relationship with Jodi. He didn't say because of Jodi. You know what I mean? So he was taking the blame just as much as he was dishing it out to her, which of course he didn't kill her, you know, but he's a good guy though. I mean, you know, he was a young guy. He made some mistakes, but he was a decent guy, you know. And for the fact that he was raised by his grandparents, he did pretty good for himself, you know. Yeah. So be nice, be kind, stay safe, stay healthy. Like I said, I hope everybody got through the 20th anniversary of 9/11. I've been under the weather. That's why this is my hair today. I'm not making too much of an effort. I'm trying to come out on the other side. So I hope you guys have an amazing week. And that about does it for me. Bye, guys.